Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Michael Hello, and distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, allow me to say that my office, the UN Office of High Representative for LDCs, LLDCs and SIDS, is very happy to jointly convene this important panel with the Center for Technical Assistance for Agriculture and Rural Cooperation as part of the forum of this IFPRI. As you have just heard from Mr. Halu, that this is a very important gathering here. I was told that there are almost 800 people yesterday, and as he explained that it is bringing people from all over the world. So I think it's a very good opportunity to really have an interaction with the larger community, and especially to let them know what the efforts, what the challenges the SIDS are facing, but also what the efforts that the countries and the people themselves are doing to make sure that the food security and especially nutrition security is maintained. We have already been working closely together with the CTA in the past and look forward to continuing our collaboration as we move forward together. I thank the Director for his continued strong support for SIDS, because he looks after many of the countries in terms of collaboration, ACP countries as a whole, but particularly in the crucial area of agriculture and rural development. I'm very pleased yesterday that look at the policies, the value chain, as well as the the knowledge management with ICT and all of that. I just would like to say a few words about the need to enhance resilience, food and nutrition in small islands, and how that fits into the overall process of the SIDS conference that our offices are organizing in Samoa. But I would also like to touch upon how this should be taken forward in terms of the post-2015 development agenda. I think it is very fitting that all these conferences are coming one after another. We have seen that, you may be aware that, September we have a meeting in Samoa, but Secretary General himself is organizing a climate summit, September 23 in New York. That is also to sensitize international community, also garner political will for leadership in terms of the climate change issues. And that is also very much linked with the resilience, that is very much linked with the agriculture productivity, that is also very much linked with the prosperity of the people in the islands. And thirdly, of course, it is coming before when we are all talking about the SIDS conference, the post-2015 development process in terms of the work of the open working group in New York is progressing well. And if you look at the issues they are trying to tackle with, of course, you all are aware that when we had the MDG, we tried to focus more on the human development side. You see the preponderance of the issues related to the human development, from the health to the access to the maternal mortality to the education empowerment, all of that. They are very important, absolutely, there is no doubt about it. We continue to make progress in this area. But what we are trying to deal with in the post-2015 development agenda is that while these are necessary conditions, but they are not sufficient. So we have to look at the other issues, economic growth issues, as well as the sustainability issues, because we live in a world where you have to look at the people and planet together. We have seen many of the reports coming out very strongly globally as well as through the UN, how we should be looking at the sustainable development as our agenda in the next the decade and thereafter. So I think from that perspective, when we look at the challenges of the agriculture, as well as the the food security, nutrition security, you can see that the discussions that we are having in New York, of course, among the member states, they are giving a lot of priority to that sector. And therefore, I think this conference of SIDS, which is taking place, and again, which is also giving a priority to the food security, poverty, nutrition linkages, but as well as the very strong, genuine and durable partnerships. I think that's the only way forward. So it fits in very well with the global dialogue that we are having, and you may be aware that there is also a very strong initiative that the Secretary General is taking of the United Nations, of the Secretary General of the United Nations on his Zero Hunger initiative. I'm also part of that high-level, the board, and we are trying to look at all of that, the stunting issue, 100% access issue, food systems issues, how to really make it sustainable, and then of course smallholder productivity and income, and a zero loss or waste of food. And therefore I think in terms of the overall global discussions and the global focus on food and nutrition security, the sustainable agricultural system, and the of course as part of the overall the sustainable development goals. They are very important. We all know that the agriculture development is key to many of the countries in SIDS, and in fact, if you look at that, there are also very long, long-standing harvesting practices, food storage practices, which has been going on traditionally over the centuries in that part of the world, which needs to be acknowledged and encouraged. But at the same time, as we have to grapple with the new challenges, it's the modernization challenge, it is also the challenges of the consumption-related issues, it is also challenges of globalization that we all face, and including of course, the climate change, which we all say is a big elephant in the room. So I think that's very important that we look at the agriculture system and the food and nutrition security in much more holistic way than before. That is the basic challenge that we all face. And of course, we will be hearing more about what the particular challenges are, because I think we have a very distinguished panelists here that themselves will explain the vulnerability issue, the size issue, the market challenges issue, being away from the major market center related issues, and the challenges for the smallholders in terms of modernization and linking with the informal economy with the formal economy issues. But just also to stress that the Barbados Program of Action, which is adopted in 1994, was recognized the need for the SIDS to address the constraints to sustainable development, including the scarce land resources as well as the land and agriculture use decision. If you look at the Mauritius Declaration, again, there is a very strong focus on how to really make sure that these issues, especially the agriculture, implementation of agriculture, but also rural development initiatives, are taken into account in terms of promoting the long-term development of efficient agriculture system. And therefore, I think when you look at the agriculture, therefore, what we are really trying to look at in the post-2015 is the overall, integrated approach. So first, we start with access and affordability. These are very important issues. Second is productivity, and then of course making sure that it is not only the production, but the productivity as a whole. When you look at the overall percentage of the people living in agriculture in all SIDS and many of the other countries, almost 60 to 70% of the people are in agriculture, but their production, contribution to GDP is almost 20% to 25%, and that there is a big, huge mismatch. So this has to be taken into account, and then of course modernization and income-generating activities. I think this has to be linked very strongly together with the strong support for the smallholders, farmers. And then thirdly, of course, sustainability and building resilience. I think that's very important in today's world, because these are the three things. When you look at the sustainable development, we always say that the social dimension is very important, economic dimension is very important, environmental dimension is very important. But we have to make sure that we look at it in an integral manner, with an integrated approach, and that is only possible if we have a very strong national leadership. When I say strong national leadership, a multi-stakeholder approach is critical. We all have to make sure that the communities, the private sector, the governments play a very important role, because after all, it is the efforts of all that will make it sustainable in the long run. Then as we see the challenges of all these countries, because we all live in a globalized world within a multilateral global system, the multilateral global system, whether it is about a trade, whether it is about a financial system, whether it is a climate change related regime that we have, or the global international support regime that we have in terms of ODA, in terms of the investment, that has to be geared towards the overall promotion of the sustainable agricultural system. So it is in the, therefore the sustainable partnership is critical, and this partnership has to be really both national as well as international. Going forward, I would just say that we in my office, working together with the various partners, both the development partners, but also the private sectors, as well as the government of Samoa, and all the, the partners from the SIDS countries, the Pacific, the Caribbean, as well as the AIMS regions. My office is also organizing a private sector event as part of the, the SIDS conference in Samoa just prior to the main conference, which will also partly overlap with the main conference as a dialogue mechanism, but also to announce initiatives, that also scale up activities, and also to share best practices with everyone. I have seen a very strong encouragement so far, and I'm sure that among the 6 sectors that we have identified, agriculture is there, and I'm sure that this also will further feed into that process. I'm very glad that the CTA has also said that it will be participating in that. We're already working with the Pacific Islands private sector organizations and then also with the Caribbean, CARICOM, as well as the Business Council. I just had a couple of meetings with the ambassadors based in New York, as well as many ministers. They all see that this is a very important conference for the SIDS. And I do hope that, and I also had a very extensive interactions with many of the development partners, both traditional as well as the emerging partners. They are very supportive of this process, and they have ensured that there will be very strong participation in that particular conference. Therefore, I do hope that this particular dialogue that we are having will contribute to that. And two, of course, finally, I would just like to say that at the end of the day, it is national efforts. There is no doubt about that, as I said, but it is the international support, whether it is in the technology issue, whether it is the knowledge management issue, whether it is sharing of best practices, and also creating a very strong linkages with the global processes. I think these are very important issues, and I do hope that the panel discussion that we are having today, as well as the many of the events that are being organized tomorrow and day after, and today with the opening, we hope that that will really take the issue of the sustainable agriculture development and food and nutrition security in a sustainable manner, but also in an inclusive manner for all the countries and all the peoples, including those which are in the islands. You know, the Secretary General has said that what we are looking for in the post-2015 is we don't want to leave anyone behind. We want to see a transformational change, and we want to make sure that it leads towards the life of dignity and justice for all. And I think that captures all the message that we are trying to do with that. So thank you very much for this opportunity, and thank you for the participation. Thank you.